Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. You're watching Mainebiz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Welcome back. We're continuing our discussion of the economic impact of destination events in Maine with Andy Shepard, CEO of Maine Winter Sports Center, Ollie Wilder, Program Manager for PopTech, Walt Elish, President of the Aroostook Partners for Progress, and Todd Gabe, Professor of Economics at the University of Maine. Back to our discussion, I want to follow up on those 120 pairs of eyeballs, I guess, that are out there watching from Europe. And one thing you mentioned when we were on break, Walt, that I wanted you to follow up on was kind of being able to coordinate that with other organizations to really make sure that you're getting the best business advantage out of it, too. So
yeah, when we thought about this, we thought of who was already over in Northern Europe promoting Maine as a state in the Maine International Trade Center kingdom. So we had discussions with, or are in process of having discussions with Janine Carey and her staff, along with Andy, and targeting business over in Northern Europe that might be a good fit, that will be watching probably the World Cup and also maybe sponsoring parts of the World Cup. And we think, and in our case, we're looking at companies in the renewable energy industry that Aroostook County is actively involved in right now anyway. So we're using the resources of MITSI to help us promote Northern Maine to businesses in Northern Europe.
Good. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. On the PopTech side of things, too, on that weekend in October, we've got some of the best minds and some of the best entrepreneurs in the world converging on Maine. Are any of them staying? Are they staying here? Is there any of their capital or brain power staying here?
Well, we make a really deliberate effort during the conference to get people into the community, to integrate out there in the community. One example is people have lunch every day in the local restaurants. We do various conference events out in the community. And we have had people stay. They come, they see how great it is, and it's a different environment from what they're used to. A lot of these people are coming from big companies like Microsoft, Nike, American Express, and the big-time corporate world. They come to Camden, Maine, and they see how laid back it can be, and yet still pretty fulfilling and interesting. And yeah, that definitely attracts people, and some of them do stay.
Do you coordinate efforts? Does PopTech coordinate efforts with state agencies or local economic development or chambers to really try to cull out some of that business opportunity?
There hasn't been as much of that interaction as maybe there could be, so that's something we should look into. But I know that one of the things in our area that's really strong is that, in fact, there's almost a conference cluster in our area, and so you get things like the JUICE Conference on the Creative Economy, which grew in part out of PopTech, which got its expertise from the people in the community that know now how to do these events, and that conference was very much related to some of the statewide efforts.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I might just follow with that. Through the efforts of the Maine Winter Sports Center, we know, I believe, Andy, I think Andy would agree, we now have that level of expertise in Aroostook County to put on biathlon events and other major events like in the Can-Am sled dog race and all that kind of stuff. Now, we've gotten, I think, pretty good at doing that, and that's one of the reasons why through the efforts of the Maine Winter Sports Center, we're able to, by we, I mean Aroostook County, are able to attract 2 World Cup events the way we're able to this coming year, just because of I think our expertise and our ability to put on World Cup events. Well,
and I think it makes a good face for the rest of the state too. Both of these events do. They help. They're putting the right. Painting the right picture for the state. And Todd, that's why I want to go to you as well and ask, what is Maine's, once again, from an economist point of view, what's our advantages, strategic advantages and disadvantages, I guess, in terms of destination event kinds of things?
I think, of course, in the case of these 2 events, the Nordic skiing is obviously fit for Aroostook County. They have the climate you need. The history, the locals in that part of the state really understand this sport in a large part to the efforts of the Maine Winter Sports Center. Around Camden, for the PopTech, as you mentioned, there's a whole cluster of similar events, of these types of destination events. So I think it's having the people that can put on these types of events.
Okay, but this is Maine too. We're way up in the corner, you notice that. What are the disadvantages too? What is travel, transportation disadvantage, or in some cases weather? In your case, weather's the advantage, I suppose.
You know, we talk about travel to Aroostook County. Typically, you would think of travel to Aroostook County as a disadvantage.
Right.
When you're in southern Maine, it seems like the end of the world. And yet, when you're flying from Europe, which is a significant part of our target population, it is as accessible as anywhere else in the United States. You fly directly into Boston, and there are daily flights from Boston to Presque Isle. There's nothing inaccessible about Aroostook County.
What about the Camden area? And not only I asked that about Camden because I think it's more typical of some of the other places that if you're not in Portland or Bangor, it's tough to really get folks there. How about your experience?
You have to have a real pull. You have to have an event or something that's really going to pull people in. Once they're on the way, it's not that bad. They get there and they say, gee, that wasn't that far after all. And our perspective is that it gives them a chance to decompress a little as they're arriving.
And your folks are flying into, where are they flying into?
Mostly into Portland, a few into Bangor, very few into Rockland.
Do you shuttle them up, or how does that work?
We use some local transport services. There's definitely a lot of transport that happens. Most people arrange their own transportation, but
that's
using
good for
shuttles,
the economy
limos,
too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Good. All right. I want to get to state policy issues because we're going to run out of time, but I wanted to have this group have a chance to talk about that. We did talk about general economy. We think this is probably a good thing for the state of Maine to do. It certainly works in certain regions, depending on what their skill sets are and their strategic advantages. What could the state be doing in terms of, or should they be doing to help promote this, to enable it, to make it even more of an economic driver for the state? And I just throw that out as a jump ball for anybody who wants to take it.
Well, one of the things I think
I knew you would do that.
one of the, they may want to consider. I'm not here to tell the state what to do.
Go ahead.
But one of the things they may want to consider is we have a number of significant events taking place already in the state of Maine. We have 2 here, but I'm sure there's others in the state. And we're all doing our own thing. We're all working as individuals to promote our specific events. If we had a coordinating entity that looked at all the events and used that to promote the state of Maine as a destination for events, sporting events, other types of events, and went out and promoted the state of Maine for that.
Beyond what the Office of Tourism does right now, you mean?
I would think so, yes.
In a more focused effort?
More focused and targeted.
How about others? Andy, weigh in on that.
You have a group of individuals within a community like in Camden, Rockland, Rockport that decide they want to do this. That's not necessarily a bad model. And I'm not sure I could offer the state any ideas specifically on what they could do to support it.
Just in general.
I agree with that. That I think that your most successful events are those that have the local support and kind of come from the ground up as opposed from the top down.
Right.
And I guess another thing also, we talked a little bit about the role of the state, but also I think, that the private sector, which one thing we're lacking in this state are the large resort destinations.
We're going to have to wrap it there, but we're going to keep you around for our afterthought segment that we do on the web, and I want to talk more about that, about venues, tax incentives, sales tax, and the impact of that on businesses, and what do we need to do? Because in venues, I know that's something that you guys struggle with in Camden, great place, but you don't have that one bigger place, so interesting ways to talk about it. I want to have you come back, and we'll explore some more.
Great.
Thanks. You can catch more of this discussion on our exclusive Afterthought segment, seen only on the web. Just go to mainebiz.biz and click on the Mainebiz Sunday link. We'll be right back.
Mainebiz Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine.